So I've been collecting plants for quite a while now, and I can't believe I just found out about Keiki Paste. It comes in this really tiny bottle. What it is basically a formula of plant hormones and vitamins. You apply it to the nodes of plants to try to stimulate growth out of it. It's really helpful when you have a plant that's growing long and tall and a lot of bottom leaves are gone and it's starting to look naked. Or like these long vining plants that will start to look very bare on top because the leaves here are gone and it's not growing back. So I'm gonna try it out with this node right here. Now I have to make a small cut. All right, I think that should be good enough. Now I'll be applying a little bit here. It's kind of like Vaseline. And here we go. And in a few weeks or a month, that should start turning into a branch. And this bottle is gonna last me quite a while. I'll put a link in my bio if you're interested in this. This whole thing was like $15. Check in a few weeks to see if anything happens. I'm also air layering at the same time, so I don't know if that affects anything. It's 1 week since I started using Keiki Paste. Let me show you the progress. So in the last video, I demonstrated how I applied it to my Ficus elastica. And I ended up going a little crazy and applied it to a bunch of different nodes on these two ficus trees and this smaller ficus plant. Here's one I did. Here's another one, and there are more on other parts of this plant. But this one was the one that has the most noticeable growth. It's really tiny, but you can see that leaves are starting to grow or pop out of this node. So really impressive results already in just 1 week. Make sure to follow along if you want to see more progress on this. And I also have it linked in my bio if you're interested. It's been 2 weeks since I applied Keiki Paste to a bunch of my plants, and there's some really exciting updates. So I applied it to this Ficus altissima, this Ficus audrey, and both of my Ficus elasticas. Starting with the altissima, I applied it to a bunch of places. You can see where it's shiny, but the biggest growth by far was this branch here. And within 2 weeks, this node has already shot out one leaf and already has another one on the way. Moving on to the Ficus audrey, I also applied it to a few different spots here, but as you can see, this node is already popping out. And just last week, there was nothing there. It was still pretty flat and smooth. And lastly, my Ficus elastica, also applied it to a bunch of different spots, but this one is pretty promising. Looks like it's shooting out a new leaf. This was my first time trying Keiki Paste, and this stuff is as close to magic as you can get. I have it linked in my bio if you want to go check it out, and make sure to follow along if you want to see how it progresses on week 3. It's week 3 of my Keiki Paste plant experiment. Let me show you the progress. Starting with the Ficus audrey, this is by far the most successful node so far. I put on the screen what it looked like just last week. It's a huge difference for just 1 week. I also applied it to these shiny spots, but obviously it hasn't done as well as this one has. Moving on to my Ficus altissima. This node has busted open and there's like a tiny leaf coming out. And then I'm also seeing a small development up here as well. And I'll put a before picture of what it looked like just last week. Also huge different, even though it's still really tiny. And lastly, my two Ficus elastica trees. This one on the left, there's 2 nodes that are doing pretty well. This one's budding out. There's like a tiny leaf coming out. And then this one is popping out as well. And this last one is probably the most successful one so far. Also applied it to a bunch of different spots, but these 3 are by far the most successful ones so far.